Hi, my name is Chamath Tiarachi. I teach at Northern Virginia Community College at Annandale campus. So my talk is about manifold. So we are going to discuss briefly about manifolds and some of the applications. So here's an intuitive notion of a manifold. And so manifold is a topological space which locally looks like Euclidean space, uh, looks like an Euclidean space with all of its usual topology. And first of all, okay, let me explain what is a topology. So we have the definition here, topology. Uh, it's going to be any space. It's going to be a topological space. It's going to be any set of points along with a set of neighborhoods for each point. For example, we can take our set of real numbers, the real line. So on the real line, we have open intervals. So the open intervals will be the neighborhoods, okay? And we have a better definition, okay? This is just, okay, a description. And here's the better definition of, okay, of manifold. Let me just scroll down a little bit. Okay, right here, here's a definition. So this is going to be, okay, it's going to be any set X, okay. So it is going to be a subset. So if you call the space X, it is a set. So then we are going to define a topology on this set X we call T. It is going to be a collection of subset of X and whose elements are called open subsets satisfying three axioms. The first one is, okay, the null set and the set X itself, they should belong to the T, the collection of subsets. And the second axiom is, so if you have any sets belonging to T, the topology, then their intersection also belongs to the topology or the set T. And the third condition is, okay, if I collect all UIs belonging to T, okay, so these are indexed by a certain, okay, index I belonging to a set I, so indexed by I. If you take all the collection of sets UI belonging to set, then that collection, the union will be also back in set T. So if, okay, a set X and set T satisfy these conditions, three axioms, then we call T is a topology defined on X. So we call the pair XTE, okay, a topological space. An example for this is I gave you another one. So the next one, for example, could be the point set topology. That's a very, okay, obvious example. So if you have any set X, okay, it could be any collection of elements. So you can define a topology on the set X, and my set T, the topology will be the collection of all subset of T, okay, all subset of T. So if I do that, then clearly I can satisfy all these three conditions, because since, okay, it's going to be all subsets of T, clearly the null set belongs to, it's a subset, it's going to belong to the collection of all subsets, or then the set itself is going to be a subset of the set X, is going to belong to the T. And then if you take any subsets, okay, belonging to the T, which is a collection of all subsets, then the intersection will become another subset of T, okay? It belongs to T because it's going to be a subset of X. And again, if you take all the unions of subsets of T belonging to T, their union will be back again, okay, which is going to be, in this case, X. It's going to be belongs to T. So then we can call this is a topological space. Okay, so that's how we define a topological space. So now I'm going to, okay, so since we defined the topology now, I'm going to talk about a manifold now. Okay. So this is going to be a manifold we are going to define. Okay. Sorry. Let's go back here. So what happens in the manifold is, okay, we can locally, if we take, okay, so manifold is a set. So what we can do is we can locally take a subset of the manifold. Okay, for example, like a space of a surface of a sphere, and we can locally map that because each point, okay, in a manifold has a neighborhood, and we can map that to a n-dimensional Euclidean space. So we call the map a homeomorphism. It's homeomorphic to a Euclidean space of dimension n. And I have the definition here, okay, of a homeomorphism. This is what a homeomorphism is. It is a continuous function which maps one topological space to another and has a continuous function. Okay, so I have another definition, okay, for homomorphism right here. So this one, let me just scroll down. Okay. So before that, let's talk about what mean be continuous in a topological space. Okay, so that means we are going to map from one topological space to another one. So here I have this topological space X equipped with the topology Tx, and the space Y equipped with topology Ty. So you're going to have a map called function f for going from set X to set Y, or space X to space Y. So we call it continuous. What happens is, if you take any open interval in X, sorry, if you take any open set U in Y, that means in the range of the function Y, then it's inverse. Okay, if you take F inverse U, it is going to be open in X. Okay, so this should happen for any open set you pick from the set Y. If you pick any open set U from set Y, if F inverse U is also open in X, then we say the function is continuous. Okay, then we call it is homeomorphism if the function itself is continuous, bijective, and its inverse, which is going from Y to X, is also continuous. So that's what a homeomorphism is. So we need that, okay, to define a manifold. Okay, so what happens with the manifold is, if you take any neighborhood in the manifold, you can map to n-dimensional Euclidean space. So let me just explain with a diagram what I'm saying. For example, okay, we can take our as a set right here. So we can take our set as the sphere like this, sphere like that. So this is going to be the sphere. So this is called the sphere. Also, we can call this one, we call, okay, S2, okay, because this is going to be a surface, okay, two-dimensional surface, okay. So you can take this one. So you can take any neighborhood here, okay. You can take any neighborhood here. Okay, we can have a point P. So this is going to be the neighborhood U right here. That's going to be the neighborhood U. So what happens is we can map this under a homeomorphism, let's call it F, to So this one, so this is going to be in, okay, this is in R squared, R2, okay, to an open neighborhood like this. So this is what's going to map. Okay, so we call this is going to be f of u, f of u. Okay, f of u. That's what we have. Okay, so this one, so this is called, okay, so this one, so remember the dimension should match. Okay, S2 R2, for example, if you do this in, okay, Sn, then it's going to be Rn. Okay, so dimensions should be the same. So that's what we mean by, okay, and an example of this one will be, okay, the earth, we can take it as an example, because if you take earth, you have the atlas. Okay, that means if you take any, okay, if you have atlas in front of you, okay, it only represents the earth surface locally, right? So it's going to be a local map. If you take any local neighborhood, for that, for example, if you take city of New York, and you can map city of New York, okay, to something, a figure, and open, okay, a set in the plane. So that's why we have a manifold there in the example of Earth. So let's continue. Okay, this one. So we talk about, okay, homeomorphism. Yes, exactly. Okay. So now I'm going to talk about the Hausdorff space. So it is a topological space in which distinct points have disconnected neighborhoods. That means if you take any 2 points, we can say X and Y. The topological space T with U being the neighborhood of X and V being the neighborhood of V, then what happens is U intersection V will be empty set or the null set. That's called Hausdorff. Okay. So then we can talk about a base or basis for topological space. Okay, that means it is with some topology X, it's going to be a collection of open sets in X such that every open set in X can be written as a union of elements of the base. Okay, so that's called a base for the topology. An example we can take our real line, number line. Okay, so that is, okay, if you take any, okay, the topology will be set of all open sets on the real line. Then we can write, if you take any open interval, we can write this as union of open intervals. So that's why we say, okay, the set of open intervals forms a base for, okay, topology on the real line. Okay, so this is what we have. And okay, so let's move to the next one. So another example is the collection of open balls, which forms a base for metric topology on n-dimensional Euclidean space. So you can say in n dimension, open balls. That means it's going to be a ball of radius r, right? Okay, that's going to be another example. And in 1 dimension, examples of manifolds include lines and circles, but not shapes where lines cross each other, since the crossing points are not homeomorphic to 1-dimensional Euclidean space. Okay, so that's the point, because we cannot make the function 1-to-1. So we say a homeomorphism must be a bijective one. That means you must be able to define the inverse function. So you cannot define the inverse function if it's not bijective. So that's why we avoid crossing points. So in 2 dimensions, manifolds include surfaces such as the plane, sphere, torus, and Klein bottle, among others. So in physics, a manifold can be any set of points, any set of points which can be continuously parameterized by any number of independent variables. For example, the phase space of a particle in classical mechanics using its 3 position coordinates and its 3 momentum coordinates forms a 6-dimensional manifold. Okay, so 3 plus 3 will be 6. So we already talked about that. So this is okay. Another definition of n-dimensional topological manifold is a topological Hausdorff space with a countable base which is locally homeomorphic to Rn. Okay, we already discussed that. Okay, so this means that this is here's yes, we don't discuss this one. Yes, so as for every point P in M, there is an open neighborhood U of P and a homeomorphism going from U to V. We call it F, which maps the set U onto an open set V in Rn. Okay. So a topological manifold also has the properties of being sigma compact and being paracompact with number of its connected components be it countable or denumerable. Okay, so this is a definition of a topological space being sigma compact. That means if the topological space is a union of countably many compact subspaces, then we call it sigma compact. And here's a definition of paracompact. So this is a paracompact space. It's a topological space in which every open cover has an open refinement which is locally finite. Okay. So we call a collection of subsets locally finite. Okay, collection of subset of a topological space X is said to be locally finite if each point in the space has a neighborhood which intersects only finitely many of the sets in the collection. It's called locally finite. So now if you have, remember we talk about a homeomorphism, right? Manifold going from a map, F going from U to V. So this has a name called chart or coordinate system. So in the example of the surface of the sphere, we had charts. Okay, that means so you can take regions on the surface of the sphere, you can map them to regions on the plane. So we have charts. So what we call the chart means they are going to cover the entire surface. That means if you take collection of all the charts, then the union of all the charts will be equal to the manifold. That means you can somehow put back the manifold. So you can collect all, so you can like sew it in and make the manifold. So the set U is the domain or local chart. That means here you call the local chart, call the local coordinate neighborhood of the chart P. Set V is called the image of the set U under this one-to-one mapping. So the image of the point P, x1, x2, remember we are in n-dimensional space. So it's a point and is called the coordinates of P in the chart. So that means if you take the image of this one point under map P, we call the coordinates of P the chart. So okay, so now let's consider the following case. Okay, what will happen? Okay, so here's exactly what we call the atlas. if you collect all the set of charts with domains U alpha is called the atlas of M. And so the union of all the domains U, okay, must be equal to the manifold M. So, and now we have to be careful, okay. Next, we need to consider the intersection of two charts as follows. So you have to be careful now, because on the manifold M, there are two overlapping open sets. Sometimes we can have it. So what happens when they are mapped to Euclidean space? So let's look at this figure, okay. So we have okay. Suppose, okay, we have here okay, so we have, okay, this is my manifold. Suppose this is my manifold. Okay, this one. So what I have here is, so let's call this M. This is a manifold. We have two overlapping neighborhoods. Okay, this one. Okay, let's call this U, and let's call this V, two neighborhoods. So this is where they overlap. So now what happens is we are going to map these. This will be mapped. Sorry. Okay, into Rn. Is Rn. Rn. So what we do here is, so we are going to map under, okay. So we have F alpha, F beta. Let's call them F alpha, F beta. So we are going to map this one. Let's call this F beta. And we have the image of the one here. So this will be F alpha of V. Okay, so we have point P here, some point P. Okay, they are going to show us some point P here. So we have, okay, a point P in common. Okay, so it's going to have it here, its image as F alpha P. Not F alpha, sorry, my mistake, F beta. So it's going to be F beta P. And then we have another map, okay, which is going to map, sorry, this has to be U, right? Not V, it has to be U. It's going to be U. And we have another one here. And this is going to map, okay, this neighborhood again to some neighborhood in Rn. It's not right. Okay, so let's call this some sort of map. We don't know, something like this. Okay, so this is called F beta. This one. So this is the image of the point P under the function beta, F beta. Okay, what happens is okay, so this one, the intersection will be repeated in both. That's going to be the intersection. So it's going to be repeated in both. Okay, that's one. So this means, this intersection means right here, okay, F beta of, okay, U intersection V. That's what you have. Let me change this a little bit. Yes, let's call this yes. Let me okay, because I want to okay go with the notation. So let's call this U alpha. This is U beta. Yes, change this a little bit. So this will be U alpha. Yes, so it's going to be this has to be okay. Sorry, alpha. Yes, F alpha, F alpha. Okay. Then this is F beta. This is going to be okay. U beta. To go with the notation, okay, U beta. So it's going to be alpha intersection B. Okay, beta. It's going to be U. And again, we have here, this one will be F alpha of U alpha intersection U beta. Okay, that one. So now you have to be carefully, okay? So this is what's happening. So remember, these are homeomorphism. That means you can go this way, you can have the inverse function. So we are going to define the inverse function and we are going to map the set here to a set there by another function. We call it the transition map. Let's look at that. Okay. So what we have is, so if you have F alpha, F beta are charts, then on the intersection of their domains, U alpha intersection U beta, there exists another homeomorphism, and we can call it F alpha beta. This is a new one. And this is going from F alpha of U alpha intersection U beta to F beta U alpha intersection U beta, where this is how we define F alpha beta homeomorphism. So this will be F beta circle F alpha inverse. Okay, if we go back to our figure here, sorry, yes, my figure here, right here, this is what we have. So we have here, now we have going from here to here, we have going from here to here, this one, we have F beta circle F alpha, so which is defined as F beta, sorry, this is be called, okay, so be careful, okay, with the notation, yes, F alpha beta. F alpha beta is equal to F beta circle F inverse alpha. Remember, the inverse function exists because it is a homeomorphism, it's bijective, and this is going to be continuous. That means there is a way to directly map the set here, this set to that set, okay, right here. The function is this one. So we call this as a name, we call this is a transition map. So this is what, okay. So now what happens is this map F alpha beta gives a relation between the coordinates in the two charts and is called a coordinate transformation or just a change of coordinates. So sometimes call it transition map. Okay. So now let's do one example. Okay, let's talk stereographic projection. So let us take two manifold. Okay, let us take, okay, two-dimensional sphere as our manifold. We call it S squared, and this is how you define S squared, this one. Okay, so you know this is one going to be in R3. Remember, this space is embedded in R3, but it is a two-dimensional space, and this is the equation of a sphere with radius, say, centered at the origin. So these points X, Y, Z, they define the surface of the sphere S2. And what you are going to do here is, and we are going to project each point on the sphere onto the plane C is equal to minus A. Okay, so like this. So this one. So let the coordinates on the plane be P prime XY. And given that NPP prime all lie on a straight line, we must have this one. Where T is a positive real number. After some algebra, we can find. So let me just introduce a figure here. Okay, so this is what we have. So we have the sphere. So this is my sphere. So yeah, the sphere radius r. Radius r. So this is going to be the radius r. This is a sphere. Sphere of radius a. This one. So what we are going to do is we are going to map. For example, we can have the plane here. This is a plane. Okay. Plane z is equal to minus a. So what we can do here is we can take, okay, we can take, okay, this one, and we can map it like that. Okay. So this is called stereographic projection. So we're going to map it. So that's what happens. So that means for each point on here, we can have a point in the plane. So if you take a neighborhood except the North Pole, there's no way to map North Pole to the plane z is equal to minus a. The reason for that is because, you know, at North Pole, you get a line parallel to the plane and they never intersect. So that means the North Pole will be at infinity. So that means we can map all the points on the sphere except the North Pole onto the plane z minus a. Okay. So that's what we can do. So we have these points NP and P prime, all line a straight line, this one. So this is how they are connected, NP and P prime. So we can map, okay, so we can write P prime minus a to this one. That is a positive real number. So after some algebra, we find that we have mapped the surface of the sphere to the plane whose coordinates on the R2 space is this. Okay, this one, because remember, okay, plane is in R2, two-dimensional space. So this is going to be the map. That means XY. These are going to be the coordinates in R2, and this is how you find their coordinates through this map, XYZ. So it's going to be 2x over x minus c, that's the x coordinate, and 2ay over a minus c, which is the y coordinate. So then we can do some algebra and find out, okay, the inverse map. The inverse map going to be f alpha inverse x minus y. That means if you take the inverse of this one, so that means we can map this point back to xyz. Again, f alpha is a homeomorphism, so the inverse function exists. And these are going to be the coordinates on the sphere. So this is the x coordinate, 2x over x squared plus y squared plus a squared. And this is the y coordinate, 2ay over x squared plus y squared a squared. And this is a z coordinate, x squared y squared minus a squared x squared plus y squared. Okay. Now we can do the same thing the other way. Remember, so this time we map the sphere onto the plane z is equal to minus a except the North Pole. And then we can do the other way. That means we can map the sphere onto the plane z is equal to a and project from the South Pole. So let's call the, okay, so that means we get another map, okay, onto R2. We call their coordinates u and v. So this time we are going to map all the points onto the plane z is equal to a except the South Pole. And these are their coordinates. Okay, a similar algebra. Okay, so the same, by the same algebra, we can find this one. So it's going to be the same thing as this here. 2x over a minus c. This one you get, okay, plus c, not minus c plus c here. And that's what you get, plus c, this one. So we call this the second map FB, okay, XYZ. And now you take, we have two, okay, so we have two charts here, right? What is the first chart? That means the set of all points on the sphere except the North Pole. And we have the second chart, the set of all points on the plane except the South Pole. And when you put these charts together, you can create back your two-dimensional sphere, which is going to be, okay, the surface of the sphere. Yes, correct. Two-dimensional sphere. Yes. So we can do that. Now what you want to do that is, now we're going to find the transition map for the coordinate transformation. You're going to find f alpha b going from xy to uv. So you had to do some algebra here. So this is after some algebra. This is what you get. This one. Okay. So you had to do this uv. Okay, that means you are going from, okay, you had to consider, okay, f alpha beta. That means you had to consider yes, f alpha beta, f alpha inverse. Okay. Then f beta circle with f alpha inverse. This is what you get. So you can map now uv, 2 points on the plane to another 2 points on the plane. So this is going to be the transition map after algebra, after you do complete algebra. So now we have the transition map. So which we call f alpha b, and this is how it is defined: f beta circle f alpha inverse. So again, okay, after line, the circle is the simplest example of a topological manifold. And topology ignores bending. So small piece of a circle is treated the same as small piece of a line. Okay, for example, okay, take the top part of the unit circle, this one, where y is coordinate is positive, indicated by, okay. Okay, so you see we have the figure, okay, line figure 1 here. So I have the figure 1 here. Sorry, where's the figure 1? Okay. Right here, figure 1, right here. See, so this is going to be, okay, so we have right here, the top part, this is yellow. See that? This is the bottom part. Okay. And this is going to be the right one, the left one. So they are color mapped. Okay. So we can map them again onto the real line. Okay. It's going to be, okay, stereographic projection on the circle, same as the sphere. This one. So any point on the surface, okay, can be uniquely described by its x coordinate. So the projection onto the first coordinate is continuous and invertible, mapping from the upper arc to open interval -1 to 1. You can do that. And this is what they have. Okay, this is going to be f top xy will be x. Okay, so these functions, we call them again charts, and there are charts for the bottom, the red, left, and right parts of the circle. So here's again, here's the figure of, okay, this is figure 1 again. This one right here. So we have all the charts. See, we are mapping all the charts. Okay, to the number, real number. Okay, open interval -1 to 1. Okay, so these are the mappings, and so now together these parts cover the whole circle, and the 4 charts form an atlas for the circle. The top, okay, and the right charts, okay, respectively overlap in their domain, right? The top and the right one. And their intersection lies in the quarter of the circle where both x and y coordinates are positive. So each map this part into interval 0, 1. Though definitely, so that's a function going from 0, 1 to 0, 1. So this is again the transition function can be constructed, which takes values from the codomain of x top back to the circle using the inverse, followed by x right 0, 1 back to the interval. For any number a in 0, 1, then we can write this one. So this is going to be, okay, TA will be x right, x top inverse a. So this will be the 1. So the answer will be 1 minus a squared after some algebra. Okay.
Excuse me, are you drawing something? Because I don't see something. I don't
let-
see anything on the screen. Maybe it's my problem.
You don't see the drawing on this one, right? You
I
cannot see that?
I see the drawing, but nothing else. You said what something, I think you wrote something, no?
Oh, okay, okay, that's right. Okay, so let me just, this is what I have, yes. This is what I have, yes. I do this on a different screen. Okay, this one, you're talking about this one, okay. Sorry, right here, this one. So this is my drawing. So this is about the sphere you're talking about. Now we are talking about the circle. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So let's get back to this one. Okay. So this is going to be the unit sphere. And so this is what we get. So we have the transition map defined on the sphere. Okay, so this one. This one. So we call the transition map. And again, the next one is, okay, so we can write the top left and right charts do not form only possible charts. Charts need not to be geometric projection. There are other, okay, ways of doing this. And the number of charts is a matter of choice. So let's, for example, let's take this one. Okay. So this is how we do that. So we take, okay, so we are going to map the unit circle in a different way, not through the projection, this way. So it's going to be, okay. So this is going to be x minus xy, going to be y over x, x1 plus x, and x plus xy will be, we call it t, y over y minus x. So here's a figure how to do that. So here S is the slope of the line to the point at the coordinates xy, and fixed point, pivot point -1. Similarly, t is the opposite of the slope of the line to the points at coordinates xy and +1, 0. So then the inverse mapping from S to xy is given by these equations. And that, so here I have a figure for that right here. So right, this one. So we talk this one, so you're going to map it like that. You take the slopes, okay, of these two lines. And then so this is what we get. Okay, now we are going to create the inverse mapping from the, okay, S to xy is given by this one. So now we can confirm that x squared plus y squared is equal to 1 for all values of S and T. So these should us provide the second atlas for the circle with the transition map the following. T is equal to 1 over S. So here's the figure one more time. Okay, so take this one using the slopes. So here's, okay, for example, okay, these are applications of manifolds. They arise as solution sets of systems of equation and as graphs of functions. And this concept has applications in computer graphics and augmented reality, given the need to associate pictures with coordinates, for example, CT scans. Okay, so here's an example here where manifolds naturally arise as solution sets of systems of equations. So let me give this example. Give me a second. Okay, so. Okay, so for example here, so I found this research paper online. And so according to this research paper, So the manifolds arise as solution of the following system of differential equations. I don't know whether you can see it from there. Let me just make it bigger. Okay, it's this one. So this one. This one. So if you so these manifolds appear as solutions of this infinite or infinite system of algebraic differential equations in the independent variable x and dependent variables y1 through yn. This one. Okay, so now I'm going to conclude my talk, and if you have any questions, you can ask.
Okay, that's.
I don't know if you can see this.
Can you see it on the screen?
No,
No, okay. Let me just let me check. You must be able to see that. Okay, the PDF document.
this paper, you mean?
Yes,
what?
exactly. Yes,
But yeah,
exactly.
we can.
So since in this paper, okay, they say the manifolds appear as systems of these algebraic differential equations in the independent variable x and the dependent variables y1 through yn.
Mhm.
Okay, any questions you might have, please?
No, I
Okay.
should learn more about that. Later, it's interesting.
I had a question.
Yes, go ahead.
I don't know if you can see this book very well, but are you familiar with it? It's Gulliam and Pollock Differential Topology. And
No, I'm not. Yes.
I was curious what basic text you used to learn about manifolds.
Actually, mostly, I learned it through lectures posted on YouTube. And for example, okay, so I have this one. I use this tech right here, so I can show this to you. Let me check. Okay, so it's going to be let me. So there's a nice lecture here. This one. So let me just get this one here on the screen. Yes. So by this guy, and I like his lectures because I like this because he start with all the basic definitions and everything. That's why I like it. Okay, right here. So you can see that here on the screen. So I follow his lectures, and it has he covers a lot of material all the way to Lie groups, and he starts with brief definitions and everything from the basics.
Would you be
This is what I followed.
Would you be willing to send that to me in the email? I
Yes, I will send it
wrote
to
you
yes.
an email earlier. You already have my email.
Okay. Okay. What's your name?
TJ Crow. Yeah, I wrote you a couple days ago, so you have.
Okay, so I'll send it back. Yes. Okay.
Yeah,
I'll
thank
send
you.
it to you. Okay.
That looks like a really good paper there.
Yes, exactly. So this is okay. This sometimes, it's really hard to find a good text, like, okay, I have been trying so long, and finally I came across this one. This is how I like it because I like to start with, basic concrete definitions.
Sure.
Exactly.
Yep. All right, thanks. A great presentation. I gotta give.
Okay. Thank you very much.
I need to talk.
Okay,
Okay, bye.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Bye.